It is 8:30. I'll go ahead and call today's meeting of the Clay County Board of Commissioners to order. First item on the agenda is an approval of the agenda.
Move to approve.
Motion offered from Commissioner Campbell to approve the agenda, second from Commissioner Gross. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carried. Citizens to be heard. Are there any citizens in the audience wishing to address the board on anything that is not on the agenda? There are no citizens in the audience for this part. Steve, have you had any correspondence to the online opportunity?
I have not, Madam Chair.
Thank you. The approval of the payment of bills and vouchers.
Move for approval.
A motion offered from Commissioner Ebinger to approve the payment of bills and vouchers. A second from Commissioner Gross. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carried. The minutes are presented from the July 26, 2022 meeting. Motion offered from Commissioner Ebinger.
Second.
Second from Commissioner Kaylee. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carried. The minutes are approved. Item 2, a budget presentation from our Juvenile Center. James O'Donnell, good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. I'm here today to present the budget for the Juvenile Center. There's two separate budgets. There's two separate major programs, which are licensed as such, secure and non-secure. You'll see one of them is 252 is the secure and 253 is non-secure. If you don't mind, I'll just get right into
Yep.
starting with secure 252s.
Thanks.
So looking at the revenues portion of it, again, the budget that you have before you was one I submitted in June before I had the 2-year look back completed. So some of the revenue numbers are not exact on the one that you're looking at as of right now. And to back up this, the two budgets, the non-secure budget is a Clay County responsibility, and the secure budget is part of it's operated under a cooperative service agreement, and Clay County is only responsible for a portion of that. So moving right down that, you'll see actually the revenues line that I'm going to be requesting from Clay County is actually $697,715. Right below that, you'll see just kind of the other revenues is our members or other non-Clay County members, and then there's non-members, that's projected usage. Moving right down, you'll see miscellaneous reimbursements for about $400,000. That tends to be a couple different things. One is the payback for medications and individual therapies, individual doctors, specialty doctors. We'll pay those bills so they're not delayed, but we turn around and bill the county that utilize those services.
That's a separate line item, then the expense is also down below, so it offsets.
That is correct. Yep. Yep, so I can speak right to that right away. Let's move down into the expense thing, and we'll go to other professional services, which is $62.71. You're gonna see, it looks like a 53% increase. There's two reasons for that. One is our new medical contract, and the other one is just the increase of medications and costs for different services. But again, a bunch of that is offset by getting reimbursed by the counties that requested that those different specialty services be provided. Scrolling down, you'll see, starting out with salaries is pretty much laying flat. Not seeing much of an increase there. We have a bunch of turnover, so people aren't getting their longevity steps. But a big change you'll see is in 6109. That's salaries other. That's for our maintenance. I was speaking with Joe. We found an error, I guess, that the juvenile center was getting a pretty good deal from for a while on maintenance costs, and we're just bumping it up to pay our fair share now.
Gotcha.
That's all that is. You'll see,
So that really is a reimbursement to the maintenance,
yeah, it's going from one Clay County account to another Clay County.
right? And that is, Joe had updated the board on that and making sure that we were allocating that fairly, so that explains itself. Thank you.
You'll see a change that I made for utilities. One is in heating and the other one is in electricity. I overestimated the previous years, so I'm not requesting much of a change between the two budgets of 2022 and 2023 for electricity because I overestimated the previous year, and I feel that that's still good, but I do got to make an adjustment for the heating. And again, what I'm doing with those line items is I track a bunch of different things, but one of the things is the consumer price index, and it's available through the Federal Reserve, and you can look back at different trackings of stuff, and that seems to be where my estimate that the heating costs or natural gas is going to be this next upcoming year. The other professional services lines we already discussed. Next big change you'll see treatment costs. Again, that's a lion's share of that is incentives, $1 a day, $2 a day, $3 a day for kids in different programs that can earn different things. The other chunk of that is treatment material that's licensed. So we have to purchase some treatment material that's licensed. Our staff are trained in dispensing and utilizing that. However, we need to purchase some material. Building insurance, that's a number I get from the auditor's office, 5%. 25% increase, I'm looking at workman's comp. And that's due to staff injuries. We're seeing a lot more staff injuries. You'll see, looking all the way back, that workman's comp has been climbing the past 3 years. Custodial supplies, 6.7%. Again, that's bedding, clothing, et cetera, for the residents. Repair and maintenance supplies, I'm requesting a higher increase for that as I went past that last year. Just trying to keep upkeep on the new facility, and as we go through, we're getting things squared away to where we'd like to see it, where it needs to be. Miscellaneous, you're going to see on line 6820, a big reason for that 24% increase is the fingerprints. That started back in 2019. DHS changed requirements for background studies, which were more costly. COVID happened, and there's not needed, et cetera. Long story, DHS then started to subsidize the costs for their requests for these backgrounds. That subsidy is supposed to run out here at the end of 2022. So those costs will be coming back.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, you may.
James, on that miscellaneous, so the current year through June, it's $1,800. Is that something that, does that have a tendency to do the bills show up later or something, or?
I'm surprised that it's actually that low through June. But I know Ryan Sanvin, who does our backgrounds and runs all those stuff, is very, very astute at making sure the state gives us our credits, so.
I guess I just, when you see 6 months is at $1,800 and you're asking for 18,000 for the year,
Yeah, I'll have to look at that a little bit more.
thank you.
Is there any other questions on the?
I did have one other question under other professional services. So that line item, that includes professional service for individuals that is then reimbursed by counties, correct?
Correct.
So where does the nursing services come into place?
Same line
The
item.
same line item, so, so we're going from a budget proposal last year of 300 to 400. Is most of that then due to the contract change in nursing?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Is there any other questions for the secure budget?
Madam Chair, James has two things, maybe one, back up onto your revenues, your non-member rates. How many youth does that anticipate coming in from our non-members?
11.
Anything else?
If I, just briefly, I touched on our meeting last week and I talked about what we learned last time about a little frustration about the 2-year look back not always working. So I just, just to update, I think, James, we're going to still have to review that. I don't think any member should be able to go a year and not have to pay anything to be part of that facility, regardless of the past. There should be some sort of a minimum payment. And so I think, you and I and Dave, who serve in that committee, I think we need to work on that and propose that to the group, so.
Will do.
I agree. I know that it's a work in progress to figure out what equation makes the most sense. For the most part, that 2-year look back really does make sense. But certainly if you're not paying in, that changes the ability to even vote on the board, I would guess. But I think there needs to be at least a minimum to participate in that, because I know with staffing changes, that changes preferences and whatever, but we have to be able to.
Madam Chair, part of the problem with it is it does involve the look back period, but it happens to be one of what we always used to call the big four members. One of the big four members isn't sending anybody there anymore.
Yeah, agreed.
And so, I mean, that in its, for whatever reason, whatever they're doing with a different programming model, that's certainly their decision to make, but eventually that's going to all fall on all the other members then to make a difference.
Yeah, and I was going to indicate, ultimately, the budget's a budget, and it gets divided up among all the members. If you've got one member who is not paying anything, it impacts on the rest of the membership. And so I think everybody right now is fairly open to make some sort of change to keep that from happening. And I think putting a floor on what the cost is, kind of like a country club fee. You've paid it, you can use it or not use it, but if you're going to be a member, you're going to pay at least X amount of dollars.
And that was really my comment. If you want to be one of the big four, you would hope that you would find value in our program and send individuals there. It's disappointing that you want to be a big player on the board but not send anybody. Well, then we can make adjustments elsewhere. And I trust that you'll have those conversations, but certainly we feel it's a needed program that benefits the individuals that we serve, and hope other counties see the value in that as well. Anything else? Do you want to scoot on into the next piece?
Sure. All right, moving over into our non-secure budget. This one is a Clay County one. So the very first thing, looking at the revenues, You'll see a state grant, you'll see $117,000. That's for, pays for 2 case managers in our non-secure CLIPS program. That grant started in 2019. It got renewed it's a 2-year grant. It got renewed in 2021. And it runs through September 31st of 2023. So that's where that is. That was always part of our original staffing plan when we opened in 2019. So it was nice that we were able to get those funds from the state to pay for 2 of those positions. Moving right down, anticipated revenues from Clay County placements, a little over 1 million. Anticipated revenues from non-Clay County, anticipating 1.2 million. You'll see a miscellaneous reimbursement of about 90,000, and that's again in our non-secure program, we're able to capture insurance costs quite a bit for medical expenses. Sometimes we're not, and the bills go back to the individual counties who requested those services. Again, that's the same thing as the secures. Going through here, you'll see this is where I do have a new request. I'm requesting 2 new, that I will be requesting coming up in my proposed budget here. You'll see that I'm requesting 2 new full-time staff, and I'll reduce 4,000 hours of variable hour staff. And moving along, salaries other, again, that's that adjustment we made with maintenance and Joe. Association dues and membership increased by $500. Heating and utilities, same thing, tracked with the consumer price index. I feel like that's where that's going to fall out. Other professional services, again, you'll see this one is quite high of an increase as the secures. That's again the reason is we can capture a lot of different insurances. So that brings that cost back down. Treatment costs, looking to add. That's for, again, those licensed treatment products and different incentive programs. Food, I didn't mention that on the other one, but you'll see the food service goes up. That contract is up in February of 2023, and tracking with the consumer price index that a lot of the food service vendors use. You're seeing an increase coming up there. Workman's compensation, again, same thing that comes from the auditor's office, but I imagine there's our staff are getting injured, so I'm sure there's a variable that they plug in there to assume responsibility of share. Going down through miscellaneous, again, it's the same thing as the other one. We feel the fingerprints and the background studies are going to cost us significantly more in 2023. And that's all I have.
Thanks, James. Commissioner Campbell.
Thank you. James, what does the residency population look like in there? Are we always full?
In our non-secure? Mm-hmm. Pretty close, yeah.
Close.
I'm always, we don't ever completely fill it up because a major need is for the law enforcement or social services for Clay County to emergency place people. That is something significant for the county because other counties don't have that. And that means a law enforcement officer or a social worker is driving across the state or sitting with a kid overnight in the office. And here, we're always able to take for Clay County.
One of the things that we did with the expansion of the facility, whether it was the secure or non-secure, was the ability to keep some of our Clay County residents here in Clay County as opposed to having them sent out to other facilities. By doing that, that shifted that revenue source from going from, that social services paid to send them to other facilities to then paying them to our facility. And I'm curious as to how you feel we've grown in revenues from Clay County social services.
Boy, yes.
Maybe it's not I know it's kind of a deep question for you to answer right now, but I'm just wondering if you could maybe provide us with that answer later. Maybe you might want to talk with Rhonda or something and see, but I guess I'm interested to see, because we talked about that savings occurring, and it would also be at a lesser rate for social services by having them here too. So I'm just curious as to where that shows up, that benefit shows up. Does it show up on your budget, or does it show up on Rhonda's budget, or both?
Yeah, I'd have to take a peek at hers and
No, but I guess it's something that before we do our final preliminary, it'd be nice just to know those numbers.
Sure.
Thank you.
Right. Any other questions for James? Very well. Thank you very much, James.
Alrighty. Thank you.
Thanks, James.
Item 3 today are requests from Human Resources. We have our HR Director, Darren Brook, and Coordinator, Anna. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners.
First piece would be the recommendations for renewal of the cafeteria plan for 2023.
Yes, thank you. So Darren and I are here this morning on behalf of the Clay County Insurance Committee for a series of insurance updates that require board action. So the first item, like Commissioner Mojo said, would be the 2023 health insurance renewal. So, or update to the cafeteria plan, excuse me. So if you recall, Clay County left Lakes Country Service Cooperative at the end of 2021, moving to Blue Cross Blue Shield Direct. With that, Blue Cross provided us a negative 5% renewal for 2022, and then they provided rate caps for the next 3 years. So based off the way our claims are trending for this year, we were projected to receive approximately a 33% renewal through Blue Cross Blue Shield. They will honor the 7% rate cap that we have negotiated. So it would be the recommendation of the insurance committee for the board to approve that 7% rate cap. And then with that, you guys should all have a spreadsheet that kind of breaks down do you guys have this? Okay, perfect. So you guys should then be able to see on the spreadsheet how the 7% would be applied to the insurance plans. With I guess it was negotiated in 2019, the insurance county contribution per month would be an average of the increase of the 4 plans. So adding the 7% to all 4 plans and then increasing the county contribution. So one thing to note on the spreadsheet that you guys have, we are waiting for rounded rates from Blue Cross Blue Shield. You'll see right now that if you add 7% to all of our plans, the premiums end in an odd number. And to make payroll cleaner, we have asked that the premiums end in either like a 0, 50, or 50 cents, just so that it's divided equally for payroll purposes. We currently have, or I guess as of August 1st, we have 455 employees on our insurance plan. And then with dependents and retirees, we have about 650 or just shy of 660 employees. So we have a fairly large insurance employee population there.
So is that difference? Is that
So that would include children, spouses, and COBRA retirees. So yeah, there's about 200 dependents or retirees on our plan.
455 was actual employees?
Correct. Yes, thank you. Any questions on any of that so far?
No questions, just of note, the move that this board made, I think, was it 2020, when we changed the grandfathered piece?
Yep.
Excuse me. It's interesting to see the number of contracts that have come on since then. I think that's a tangible that will continue to benefit the county in terms of cost, and it's good to see where that's at.
Yeah, so as of January 1st of 2020, we have currently 100 non-grandfathered single plans. It doesn't factor in the family plans, or I would say maybe 20 in the last 2 years that have added family plans. Not super popular, as you can see, but yeah, as people are leaving and retiring, their replacements or backfills are typically non-grandfathered, so it's a savings to the county. With the projected 7% increase, as Clay County, we would see an estimate increase of approximately $170,000. Any questions?
Sorry. Any questions from the board? Yes, Commissioner Ebinger?
Yeah, and I know we're going to get to this when we look at another item here on the agenda, but I'm trying to get my head around COBRA employees. I guess question one is there any cost to the county for those employees? And question two is if people are of Medicare age, do we have people still paying COBRA?
Yeah, so that kind of leads into the next agenda item in just a moment. But yes, employees, retirees, or COBRA employees, they can stay on our health insurance and dental at their cost. So COBRA, you can remain on our health insurance at your cost for 18 months. And then as a retiree, you can remain on our insurance indefinitely. So that individual is paying Clay County the premium. If they're on COBRA, they're also paying an additional 2% administrative fee. However, that does go against our claims. So we may not be factoring that there's no county contribution involved, but their claims that for the services they're seeking could be harming Clay County essentially.
I guess what I can't get my head around is why would it be desirable for somebody over 65 to want to remain paying full COBRA when they can go on Medicare and just pay the Part B?
It might be a difference in the cost between all the supplements that they have to get.
Yeah.
It might be more expensive than what the COBRA cost would be.
Okay.
Because you don't get everything on Medicare.
Correct.
You still have a lot of self-pay on Medicare.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of everybody's, depending on the plan you're on, every plan could be different, right?
Yeah, and everyone's kind of in a different situation. We'll have people that will continue coverage for just a month or two, or we've had individuals that have continued it for 15 plus years. So it's all over the place. Yeah.
Do you know how many we've got that are over 65 right now?
We ran the numbers recently. I want to say are you referring to retirees or actual employees?
Retirees.
Yeah, Medicare eligible. I want to say there's about 20 to 25.
Okay. That's a bigger number than I would have thought.
Yeah,
We've got a really good option coming up.
yeah, that
Yeah, I know.
You're going to be really happy with the
I'm
next agenda.
probably jumping the gun, but
Yeah.
in reading the agenda, I kind of sat here and went, and everybody views it from their personal experience, but mine was different. It was nice to get off COBRA.
For sure. It's typically difficult for law enforcement if they retire at 55 and they're not eligible for Medicare for many years. They need coverage, so they either continue through us or sometimes they'll find a plan through the marketplace or a spouse, but it's really situational dependent.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Yes, Commissioner?
Madam Chair, the request is to support the Insurance Committee's recommendation of renewal of the cafeteria plan for 2023. And based on the contract that we have of 7% maximum premium, there's really not much more that we can do. So in terms of dealing with our preliminary budget, so I would move that we adopt the proposed cafeteria plan for 2023, subject to rounding.
Yes, thank you.
Second.
Commissioner Campbell offers a motion to approve the recommended 7% rate cap and recommended item on this first piece. Commissioner Kaylee seconds it. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carried.
And one additional item on that, it does not affect the county contribution, but there will be no rate changes to dental, life insurance, LTD, or vision. We're in several year contracts with them. If you are moving age tiers, meaning if you're 39 turning 40, your life insurance could go up if you have that. Same thing with long-term disability. But if you aren't moving to your next age tier, there will be no cost increase.
Got one more year. Wreck it. Thank you. I also just wanted to ask in regards to the rate cap piece. I see we're contracted in for 24 and 25. Based on where the claims are coming in, which are significantly higher than those caps, what are we doing to help plan or mitigate what that could potentially be?
I brought that up last week, and that's the whole idea that we need to start preparing for self-insuring.
Correct.
And so I think as we move forward with this preliminary budget, I talked about the need to start setting some funds aside for that purpose, because we're either going to pay it in higher premium costs, or we can be putting the money in the bank to be ready for when we self-insure, so that we don't bust that year's current budget paying the premiums in advance.
Yes. So in 2026, if we went self-insured, meaning the county would take on the responsibility or the risk of those claims, if we did not go that option and we were still fully insured with the insurance agency, our premiums, like Commissioner Campbell said, will probably skyrocket, especially we were expecting a 33% increase this year. They'll collect those funds at some point. So whether it's, we would like to start saving now, we've had some internal discussion with our brokers, as well as Lori Johnson, and just kind of how we start planning for that, so.
And the indications are through our agents who have been working on this, they're anticipating some of the high claims that we had that would have had the reason for the 33% increase are going to continue.
Yes, they thought they were going to be.
So
there was-
they're likely to, those high premium, or those high costs are likely to stay on in terms of the claims history.
And we don't get to see the reason for those claims, just for confidentiality and HIPAA, so we don't know if it's cancer or another critical illness. They did tell us of our, I think it was 6 high claimants this year, 5 would continue, so we don't get to see those, though.
Which is, fair. I think as we prepare for those discussions and the planning purposes, there are some substantially large organizations locally that have made those moves. I would encourage us to have those conversations. Lakeland has recently transitioned to that and now has enough look back to see where it made sense and where it might not have made sense. Overall, it has.
I believe Morehead Public Schools has gone to self-insurance.
I'm not sure, but I'll certainly ask.
I believe they did.
I thought I heard that they did too. But I mean, it's something that most larger counties now are going to self-insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Madam Chair, Commissioners, one of the things I did talk with Ann and Darren about was to have our consultant come to a board meeting. I think those of us that have been involved in other areas or involved through our insurance committee have some background, but I think from the board's perspective, this would be a pretty significant shift. And so we'll ask Steve to come forward and give the full board an overview of how that process would look.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you. Let's move into the second piece.
And one final thing that I'm sure we also have union contracts that will have to be addressed, and so we need to start that process.
Yeah, so we kind of going off topic here, but we're in negotiations right now. So if we sign a several-year contract, we're going to have everything finalized so that we can start contracts again in a couple years. All right, moving on to the second agenda item. Steve Smith, who is our insurance broker with NIS, him and I have been working diligently over the last, I would say, 6-8 months on a Medicare supplement plan. So kind of to follow up on the last piece, we have approximately 20 to 25 retirees on our health insurance plan who pay at their cost every month. We would like to offer them an optional Medicare supplement plan. This would remove them from Clay County's claim, so a benefit to Clay County be a benefit to the retiree in hopes that there would be a cost savings to them. Right now, if a retiree has let's say our CMM 1000 plan, our lowest deductible, they are paying Clay County $903.50 a month. So we are hoping that this Medicare supplement plan that we would offer to them would be a savings. You'll see in your packet that there is the plan overview for the Medicare supplement plan. Again, this plan is optional for our retirees, and at the time of retirement, if their spouse is on our plan and their spouse is Medicare eligible, they would also be eligible for this plan. The projected premium for 2023 would be $242. That, of course, would be in addition to their reduction that they have from their Social Security payment. So it would still be several $100s for the individual, but we're hoping that it would be a savings in compared to the premium they're paying Clay County. We don't know how many of our retirees, we don't know what their claims look like for HIPAA and confidentiality. We don't know if all 25 have significant claims. We don't get to see that, but we're hoping that even if 1 or 2 of our retirees selected the Medicare supplement plan, there would be some claim savings to Clay County. Every month when our retirees submit their payment to HR, we have to track their payment, make sure that everything aligns, and then, so there's a process on our end, and then we have to submit that payment to the auditor and treasurer. So we would remove that piece, and Medicare would, the Medicare supplement plan through Blue Cross Blue Shield would offer a direct bill, meaning that that individual will pay Blue Cross directly, freeing up some of Melissa's time within HR. We, thankfully and positively, we couldn't find any negatives to implementing this plan. There would be a little bit of administrative work on my end, but I'm already doing that for our retirees, so I think it would equal out. It was the unanimous decision of the Clay County Insurance Committee to implement this, so I will open it up to questions.
Thanks for that explanation. Board wishes.
I think it's great. This is a really good opportunity for those, and it goes to Commissioner Ebbinger's questions earlier. When somebody leaves and they stay on COBRA, this basically would take care of that. They would choose this, and it still is a group option, but it's a big group. It's not just a county group. Their premium rates are based on still on a big group. And I think for any retiree, this is a really good cost-efficient way for them to still keep those insurances. I would move the Insurance Committee's recommendation to add this plan.
Motion by Commissioner Campbell to approve.
Second.
A second from Commissioner Kaylee. Further discussion. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carried.
We will
Third
have-
item is a recommendation to transition from further to WEX.
All right, this is our final agenda item for today. So for many, many years, as far as I can look back anyways, Clay County has been a part of MHC, and they were a part of Further, formerly known as, was it Hello Select or Select Account? And then, yeah, Select Account, excuse me. So Further was bought out by another agency last year, and that agency, which is Health Equity, will no longer support VIBA accounts. So any agency in the state, or I guess probably county or state, countrywide, that has a VIBA with Further will no longer be supported. So we are still a part of MHC in the term of our tax advantaged accounts, even though we left the co-op for our health insurance. So MHC went out for an RFP. It was determined in that RFP that as MHC would be moving to WEX. So WEX is formerly known as Discovery Benefits. It is a local agency in Fargo. We have had many conversations with both our insurance brokers as well as WEX directly on the timeline, the implementation, and all the things that are composed with that transition. The insurance committee did vote to move to WEX. They will house all of our tax advantage accounts, meaning HSA, FSA, and our VIBA accounts. You will see in your packet the proposed timeline for that transition. It's coming up very soon. So this Friday will be the last paycheck or the last check file that will go to Further, if approved by the board today. Starting next week, there will be a transition or a blackout period to move all of our funds, liquidate assets, and start that transfer to WEX. Any questions so far?
I don't have a question now, and I know you'll do this, but I think the main piece is, say someone has $600 in that account. What happens if they don't withdraw it and want to withdraw it in October? I think that's the main point that we need to communicate to employees.
Absolutely. So all funds in employees' accounts will move to WEX. So there will be a blackout period, meaning that you can't access your funds for approximately 2 weeks, but every individual that has an HSA, VIBA, or FSA will be getting a new new debit cards from WEX in a couple weeks. And they will then use that debit card or reimburse themselves if they have an expense. So if you have $600 in your HSA account with Further right now, you're essentially going to see no change except for a 2-week blackout period, and then you will have a new administrator. So it's just kind of like you're changing banks.
So I guess my piece is I've been in a position where I had a child get very sick and had to pay a copay at the time before they would be seen.
Sure.
What happens to people that may need those funds within that amount of time to get seen?
Yeah, so we've communicated that a little bit. Since in that blackout period, there will be no access to your funds. So if you use your own credit card or you pay for the expense yourself, you can go into your WEX account once it's live and reimburse yourself. It's a very common procedure that a lot of our employees do. They'll pay for the expense themselves and then submit for reimbursement. So you won't lose out on any of your claims or any of their funds in your account. You just won't be able to access them for a couple weeks.
And I get that.
Yeah.
But I've been in a point where I didn't have the funds or a credit card to pay that. So what happens for those folks? Do they just say, hey, Sanford, my organization is in the process of making it happen?
Sure. So we do have some employees that have payment plans with their organization. So it's very common for dental procedures. If you have a child that has braces and you're making a monthly payment, we have communicated, and the insurance committee representatives, we're supposed to be talking to their members, letting them know we've known about this for several months now. So there should have been communication so we can have employees prepare. Of course, there's things that come up that are unexpected that happens with medical and dental. Childcare, absolutely. So we have asked people to plan accordingly. We know that may not go as smoothly, but unfortunately, people won't be able to access their funds. So that's why we've been letting them know the last couple months.
And I'm hopeful that that's not the case for anyone in that transition period, but it is frustrating. And I feel like it's a little bit of a disservice to us as the client of these companies it's a hardship.
Yeah, we were pretty shocked when we got the notification that Further was going to be dropping all VIBA clients. They are going to be losing out on many, many members. I mean, in Clay County, we have almost 1,000 accounts with Further. Someone can have an HSA, a VIBA, and an FSA, and so that would be 3 accounts that they're now losing.
Yes, Commissioner Campbell.
One last thing that hasn't been touched on. I know you talked about the accounts will transition over. The one area would be those who have enough funds in their account for investment purposes.
Yes.
They will need to then go in and if they choose to self-select their investments, they will need to do that again. If they did it with Further, they'll need to do it with WEX.
Correct. So employees.
If they're below I don't think you can do that until you have $1,000. So if you're below 1,000, it just goes into a standard investment for them.
Correct. Yeah, so all investments unfortunately will be liquidated with Further. They will move over to WEX, and the individual has the option to go in if they choose to reinvest. But all employees who have investments with Further, those will be liquidated and moved to WEX. Yeah, another very unfortunate piece.
Okay. Board wishes.
Move approval.
A motion to approve the transition from Further to WEX from Commissioner Campbell.
Second.
A second from Commissioner Kaylee. Any further discussion?
didn't think we had much choice.
No, we didn't, unfortunately. We did, when we did our RFP, we did hear back from several organizations. WEX was the most competitive, offered the same administrative fee. So right now with Further, we pay $3.75 per account, and WEX is honoring that same administrative fee. The county pays for that, why employees are active. Once the employee terminates, the employee's account is charged directly for that administrative fee.
And Anna, WEX is local, isn't it?
Correct. I want to say their headquarters might be on the East Coast, but they have a branch here in Fargo. They're formerly Discovery Benefits, so it's a kind of popular organization.
Okay, there's a motion and a second on the table. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 4 is a request to fill a vacancy for our road foreman position. Our county engineer this morning, Justin Sorum. Good morning, Justin.
Good morning. Yeah, so I'm here this morning to request to fill the road foreman position. Kevin Brasseth put in his retirement notice for October 7th. He's been with the county for 28 years, so I'd like to thank him for his service. And just in the difficulty in finding Class B drivers, I'd like to start advertising for this position immediately.
Thank you. We do have the wage calculation worksheet. Board questions?
Move to approve.
Motion from Commissioner Gross to approve the request.
Second.
A second from Commissioner Campbell.
This will likely create a opening in our maintenance crew too, so I would be requesting backfill.
So included. Same.
There's a motion to approve the request with the opportunity for backfill if needed. Any further discussion? Good luck.
Thank you.
All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Carried. Thanks. Item 5 this morning is a presentation from West Central Initiative. We have Rebecca Peterson, the Director of Development, and Jill Amundsen, our Innovation Strategist. Good morning. Yes. Great. Make sure your microphone is green.
Thank you.
There you go.
Oh, fancy. Thank you. Good morning. As you said, Jill Amundsen, Innovation Strategist for West Central Initiative. My colleague, Rebecca Peterson, Director of Development. We're here to give you a kind of an update, return on your investment in our organization. First, I want to draw attention in the packet on the right-hand side. There's the smaller booklet we've been talking about for since 1995, being your Regional Development Commission. Part of that is that we are tasked by the federal government to write a comprehensive economic development strategy, which Commissioner Cayley's been a part of. We are very excited this year that a lot of the federal investment has been able to come back to our region via this designation. For example, the $9.6 million that was awarded to your chamber recently, we were able to write a letter of support saying that it was in alignment with those strategies. And so seeing that return has just been very exciting for someone that's in a long-term planning
Yes.
field as you are.
Big deal.
Also in your packet on the right side, I included the most recent deed report. This is just mostly information, lots of statistics. I did want to draw your attention to two interesting points. On the second page, you'll see your population growth. On the, in the middle there, you'll see the bars. Most of your growth is in that younger generation, which is kind of unique for our region. You'll see that there's a projected increase as well in your more diverse populations, which I'm sure you're seeing on a regular basis. And on what would be page 5, I wanted to kind of explain the chart on the bottom right-hand corner. It's talking about housing affordability. And in Clay County, which I'm sure you're very aware of, the darker colors on those charts indicate those that are paying more than 30% for their rent or mortgage. And in Clay County in particular, the rental market is extremely expensive, so you have a lot of renters who are paying that cost-burdened amount. And then something that's not in your packet, but if you'd like to visit our website, we're undergoing a climate action plan. There's several points of public engagement. One is a survey that's open right now. We'd love for you to take it and to pass that on to your constituency to talk about how our economy will be affected over the next 40 years as we see temperatures changing, weather patterns changing, and Minnesota is slated to be a climate refugee state, expecting populations from the coast and hotter areas to be moving to Minnesota. As we talk about needing housing, that's going to be an extreme burden for our housing and infrastructure. And with that shiny, happy news, I'll pass to our Director of Development.
Thank you.
Good morning, and my green light is on, so this is.
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
All right. Well, I always like to talk about return on investment, but first of all, I want to thank you for your past support and also for Commissioner Cayley's time on our EDD board. We also have Deb White from the EDA on our EDD board. In fact, Deb White is now the chair and Commissioner Cayley is the co-chair.
Wonderful.
So, yeah, very wonderful. We also have 2 board members representing Clay County, Yoksim Gunaratne, and soon to join the board, Eric Newell from Barnesville. So I will leave these with staff, Larson here, but some numbers that might be of interest to you. We made several hundreds of thousands of dollars in grants to your regions since August of 2020. A Blue Cross Blue Shield Early Childhood Grant for $1,500, a child care capacity grant for $30,000, 44 child care emergency grants for $69,500. From your community funds, there were 59 grants distributed for over $450,000. We served as the conduit to disperse deed COVID relief grants, 61 of them for $635,000. And then Early Childhood Dental Initiative, $1,000. Early Childhood Initiative, Small Business Relief Grants, 53 of those for a total of $520,000. And finally, from our own funds, Resiliency Fund grants, 12 of them. And I thought it was interesting because Jill talked about your growing diverse population, and many of those grants were made to support those organizations. So we made a grant to the African American Development Association, the Immigrant Development Center, the New American Development Agency, the South Sudanese Foundation, also a Birthing of a Diamond, Lakes and Prairie Community Action, Enrichment Operation, Immigrant Development Center, and Partnership for Health. So I'll leave these with you for more detailed information. On the left-hand side of your packet is our new strategic framework. It looks very similar to what you've seen in the past with the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals, but we've drilled down to something more specific, which our colleague Greg Wagner refers to as the triple bottom line, people, planet, and prosperity. So this is our framework. We know that as the world changes, we need to make adjustments on an annual basis. So we can't predict where we're going to be in 5 years, but we can predict what we want to do within that framework. So on that note, right behind that is our annual review. And on the inside cover, it shows our autumn convivium from back in 2021. But we did our spring convivium here in Moorhead at the River Haven Event Center. We focused on climate, and we had Mayor Carlson as one of our panelists. Sven Sundgaard, a meteorologist, was our moderator. We also had Dr. Heidi Roop and Mark Seeley, and we talked about some of the challenges we face with extreme weather these days. We'll be doing our autumn convivium this year in Detroit Lakes. We like to spread around our 9-county region, and our spring convivium next spring in Morris. But finally, I'd like you to flip to the middle section. There's a beautiful picture of an apple tree. Back in the fall when we participated in Give to the Max Day, one of our colleagues said, well, I know Pelican Rapids wants to build an apple orchard. Could we raise money for that? To which we said, yes, but we have 82 communities. We can't just build an apple orchard for Pelican Rapids. So we raised enough money to plant 2 apple trees in each of our 82 communities. We've already planted 2 trees in Moorhead, and we were fortunate enough to run into Moorhead's resiliency coordinator last night. So we know where they are now. They're just north of here in an orchard. So we're going to go take a look at that.
Great.
So I'm open, Jill's open for questions, comments, advice.
Anything?
I got
Yes, Commissioner
one
Gross.
question. On your statistics for population and all that, where do you get those statistics from, or what,
That report's directly from DEED, so they have gathered that information. There's a new report out, I believe, this month, so that will be updated on a quarterly basis.
Well, it's certainly good information and programming, and thank you for being part of the important ground level discussions to address areas in all of our communities that we're passionate about. And I think those are important discussions, and certainly we value the partnerships and the ability to work with as many organizations as possible. Any questions? All right. Thank you. We'll reach out with any questions. Thanks for leaving the information with Steve.
Thank you.
And we'll be back next year.
Wonderful. Thank you. Next item on the agenda this morning is committee reports, and we do have an 11 o'clock groundbreaking that we need to travel to, so make sure that, I don't want to tell you to keep your report short, but certainly if we have more questions, we can ask. Commissioner Kaylee?
Sure, thank you, Madam Chair. Tuesday of last week, I had the opportunity to go out with, you probably remember a while back, we supported a grant through social services for a child care capacity building navigator for our area. And so I went out with that navigator, Karen Piper, and some other groups and our child care licensors to visit some sites in our county for possible new child care centers. So it was fun to go along on that trip and hear the joy and the excitement about building some new child care sites in our county. Later that afternoon, I had a meeting with our Adult Mental Health Local Advisory Council leadership, and we looked at planning our next meeting, which is coming up on August 16th at 3 p.m. in room 4. This meeting will feature Jennifer Illich, who is the executive director of First Link, and she's going to be talking about the 988 suicide and crisis line and how that's being implemented here in the area, and answer questions that providers and consumers have about that new service and how that is working. So all are welcome to attend that meeting again. That's August 16th at 3 p.m. in room 4 at the Family Service Center. That same night was Night to Unite in Moorhead. I hopped around to a whole bunch of community parties. It was really fun to hear what's on folks' minds and just meet people out in the community. At one party, I learned all about egg coddlers from a lovely lady named Rose. We were talking about collecting antiques. So just fun to meet community members. Thank you to all who hosted the parties and welcomed us in. Wednesday the 3rd, our ECI met to plan our mental health training for this fall. Thursday, the Children's Mental Health Local Advisory Council met. We voted to help sponsor that mental health training that I just mentioned that the ECI is hosting. And we also had a great discussion during agency and consumer updates. There were a few young adults from our county that attended this meeting for the first time, and they shared a lot of their personal firsthand experience with a lot of the agencies and services in our county. And we had one provider note that it was really helpful and impactful to hear that firsthand experience from somebody who wasn't her client, as they were more forthcoming with information. And so thank you to those individuals for being brave and sharing your wisdom and experience with the group. It was really impactful, and that's really what I think those local advisory councils are about, is bringing consumers and providers together to identify what is working, what is not, and just to have a really open, honest discussion about it. Great meeting there. Right after that, I met with Rhonda Porter, our head of social services, and Karen Piper, that child care coordinator that I just mentioned. And we talked about what that childcare grant is going to look like. Jessica Mickelson was also there as well, and how that's going to work for our county. Karen shared tons of information about work that's already been done and things that she's working on, and we're really excited to see the return on investment for that piece. That afternoon, I also attended the West Central Initiative Fund update. It was really interesting to hear how those funds are being invested to ensure that they are around for many generations to keep doing the impactful work that Rebecca just shared about investing in, what did she say? People, planet, and prosperity. So thank you to everyone for that. And that concludes my reports. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Keeley. Commissioner Gross.
We had a meeting on the Juvenile, Criminal Justice Advisory Committee. Janelle informed us that Andrew Hansen has been hired as the new SCS program, so we got a new crew leader, and they're out there working away. All the judges and judges' positions are now filled. You recall, Judge Larson has gone to Becker County, so they've been replaced, and now we got all six, I think 6 judges now. We got 2 new ones, and they're back. They're all filled now. Then on Wednesday afternoon, we had met with Klein McCarthy on the new detox center. That was a long meeting there. We've already been advertising for 3 weeks in the Fargo Forum concerning getting RFP updates and stuff like that. They're doing core drillings out there to see the soil, whether the soil is all right out there to build on there. And the rest of it, about for 2.5 hours, we talked about different floor coverings, floor space, and moving things around. But a lot of discussion on how to get the detox center built up. A lot of work to be done by the group there from Troy Amazon and his staff to get that building organized. So, but a lot of work is being done on that. It was a good meeting, long meeting, but a good meeting. Those were my 2 meetings.
Thank you, Commissioner Gross. Commissioner Campbell.
On Tuesday, August 2nd, we had a diversion executive meeting. Items discussed was land committee meetings, and we had talked about before about the potential for modifying the committees through the diversion authority as we move forward. And one of the areas of discussion now is also converting the lands committee into a planning type of a committee. Those are things that'll still need to be talked about further. Once most of the lands are acquired, then it becomes more of a operations and maintenance, and dealing with landowners on issues regarding flow easements once they're acquired and the processes involved. We had more discussion about what's going to happen today with the P3 groundbreaking at 11 this morning. We got an update from some issues with the Army Corps of Engineers, some coordination type of issues between Joel Paulson and Martin. And then we got a staffing update from Jody, and one of the issues that they're looking at doing is hiring an assistant lands person that would work under Jody, that would deal with, it would actually take some long-term functions from AE2S and move it under the direction of Jody. So there could be some cost savings there as well. Then yesterday, we had our construction meeting for the the transfer station project, resource recovery facility. All is going well there. We did have some discussion about some FF&E, furniture and fixture items that were previously not included, and the process of moving that forward. And I believe Rory is going to be here, is it a week from today, to discuss those issues. And hopefully we'll be able to come up with where we are financially on that project when compared with total revenues versus where we are with current expenditures. So we'll have some information available for that. But overall, it's, the process is good. I know Mr. Larson and I took a tour afterwards, and it's quite impressive. Each time we take a tour, there's more and more going on there, and it's Area 3, which is the household or the municipal solid waste area where the garbage trucks are, that is massive. It's going to be a big facility. And you look at the push walls as they talk about them, and they're like almost 2 feet thick, I think, pretty close to 2 feet thick. That's pretty impressive, but that's going well, and that ends my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Campbell. Commissioner Ebinger.
Thank you. Slow week. I didn't have any meetings last week. I had the criminal justice. I tried to link in through Zoom on my phone, and my technological skills didn't get me connected, so I have no report.
Thank you. Last week, I also attended the Clay County Substance Abuse Planning session with Klein McCarthy and staff. Certainly have a lot of planning to decide what the vision for that facility will be. We're hopeful that we will be able to provide programming to help meet the needs of the folks that we serve in that area like we've never been before. And that certainly is requiring us to think outside the box. As Commissioner Gross had alluded to, the RFPs are out right now. I've been working with Steve to coordinate once we get the final RFPs submitted from however many companies we do, what the plan will look like for this full board to provide interviews with those companies, similar as we've done in the past for other major projects. So that will be happening in quick order in the next couple months, but know that we're making sure that the full board will have an opportunity to weigh in on that. And then last night I did attend the Buffalo Red River Watershed District meeting. We did have budget hearings for the administrative and insurance levies along with the project and ditch assessments. And then after those hearings, the budget hearing, they did approve that, and then had general business in regards to permitting and projects that are ongoing. Did make note of some concerns that I've heard from citizens in regard to some ditch issues, so they will address that. And that concludes my report. Steve.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Last Tuesday, I participated in the budget discussion presentation at the Juvenile Center that you heard this morning with James and Lori. Again, just want to note throughout the programs, but specifically in the non-secure program, to Commissioner Campbell's point, James has worked and his staff have worked diligently to, shift and pivot to meet the needs of Clay County specifically in that non-secure program. And I think that's been very evident in the number of kids that they've been able to keep in the community, which keeps them closer to their providers, keeps our social workers in the communities for full days and not traveling. And so certainly they do great work there. That afternoon, I met with Shannon Full, President and CEO of the Fargo-Moorhead West Fargo Chamber. We discussed some of their upcoming initiatives, our partnership here with them in Clay County, needs of Clay County specifically, and also some of their budgetary needs. As was mentioned, the Chamber was awarded the $9.62 million EDA Good Jobs Challenge grant that this board provided a letter of support for earlier this year, and so that certainly was exciting for them and for our communities. Shannon's going to be coming here before this board at the end of the month to share some of those initiatives and to discuss possible funding requests for 2023. On the 8th, I met with the Sheriff Empton on a series of county issues, and also that afternoon, went to the owners' meeting for the resource recovery that Commissioner Campbell has talked about. Also talked with Scott Fiddick and got an update from the owners' design meeting from last week that commissioners have shared. Just would note a few different other items. Next Monday, former Sheriff Bill Berquist will have his funeral at Moorhead State, Minnesota State University, Moorhead campus at Nemzik Hall. Visitation is going to be from 9 a.m. till 11 with a memorial service at 11 a.m.
Steve, can you add that to our upcoming meetings?
We will do that.
There's a possibility of a quorum for that. Thank you.
We have a mill and overlay project that this board has approved at the Government Center starting tomorrow. It's a 2-day project. They'll do the front and they'll do the back. If you look on the website, there's a news blast for parking for the public. Will be the west gravel parking lot with signs to get to the building. Also, our employees have been parked for other parking alternatives during that 2 days. Did just follow up. Darren wanted to follow up in the frequently asked questions piece of our discussion on WEX. The investment threshold is actually $2,000 and not $1,000, as was mentioned in their presentation. So, and then lastly, just today's primary election today. Again, a reminder that voting needs to be done at your polling station. And again, those polls are open from 7 till 8 p.m. That concludes my report.
Great. Thank you. Anything further? Mr. Leeser?
Nothing, Madam Chair, unless the board has any questions or concerns for me.
Colleen? All right, thank you. We are adjourned.